Hey, everybody. Sorry for the late start, but I didn't get done with dinner until didn't eat dinner until after 9, and I had to wash the dishes. Well, since nobody's on, you know what? I'm gonna start reading chapter 2. Give me a moment. All right, I'm gonna read the whole page. We'll see the whole page. So, no, too small. Way too small. Okay, chapter 2. I sure hope we finally lost those Imperial slugs. 18-year-old Princess Julia Lurkin says as she stands at the rear of the bridge of the consular ship, also a Black Hawk class corvette. We lost him as soon as we turned on the cloaking device, Your Highness, Captain Saul von Gret, the other Black Hawk says. As she stands beside and behind him in the bridge command area, and she adjusts her all black hat suit. She wears it on secret missions like this. Has several hidden pockets and a built-in holster for a blaster pistol under her left armpit. She keeps a Mauser M90B officer's pistol holstered there. How soon will we get back to Centauri Prime? The princess asks. Now she runs her hands down the sides of her skin-tight catsuit, which is flat black and impervious to solid shot blasts to her body, but will minimize any heavy blaster shots to her torso to a point. She is a spy for the Rebel Alliance and a former member of the Imperial Senate, now defunct. For this very vital mission, she took her consular ship, the SS Blackhawk, and 100 of her best guards, a vessel fitted with the latest in cloaking technology and armed with the best blaster cannons and the downward canted wingtips. She was tasked with stealing the. One moment. Oh, what's going on here? Sorry, guys. Hang on. I'm going to give you a second to get back up. For this very vital mission, she took a consular ship, the SS Blackhawk, and 100 of her best guards. The vessel fitted with the latest in cloaking technology and armed with the best blaster cannons on the downward canted wingtips. She was tasked with stealing the plans for the Dark Star, the Empire's most lethal, monstrous superweapon. It is the size of Earth's natural satellite, Luna, but armed with the most potent superweapon in the galaxy with enough firepower to obliterate a planet with a single shot. For this mission, the Black Hawk landed on a secluded wooded area several kilometers from the Imperial Research Station, cloaked, of course. She and most of her team fought their way out, fighting for their lives the whole way, but were able to get past sentries into the station thanks to the stolen access codes. But she had no idea that there's a rebel mole. She has no idea that there's a rebel mole in the highest levels of the Empire who supplied the Rebel Alliance with the codes to access the station and access to the highly secretive, heavily protected plans for the battle station. The station was on an isolated world on the edge of Imperial space, lightly defended, or so they thought. She was able to get in unmolested, but then as they tried to escape, they went up against a small garrison of 150 Imperial troopers. She lost 75 of her best loyal guards in the run back to the Black Hawk. The ship took off without a hitch, but the cloaking device malfunctioned for a few moments, and the ship was spotted, and the Imperials gave chase. But then the device rolled back up, and they lost the Imperials in no time. The Black Hawk invaded 3 battle cruisers while the cloaking device was repaired. Rebel Office of Naval Intelligence, RONI, chose the world and its station as it was supposed to be lightly defended. Boy, were they wrong. But she had accomplished what she had been sent there for, and the plans now set in the plastic steel case back in her private quarters. Right now, she's only mere hours from home and the security of the palace and her family. She returned to her quarters just behind the bridge, but she had given strict orders that the ship remain on high alert till they land back in Centauri Prime City. She lay back on her bunk to relax. Your Highness, sorry to disturb you. It's okay, Saul. What is it? She asked, sitting up now. I think you may want to turn on the Imperial Newsnet. There's a broadcast coming from the throne world you may want to hear. Captain Gretz says. She reached to the bulkhead on her left side and switched on the small monitor. Some 6 hours ago, local time, forces of the victorious Imperial Starfleet invaded the Sol system and obliterated planet Earth. The face of Emperor Stelivanov says on the screen as she switched on the monitor. What the devil? She says flatly, shocked by the terrible news. The Sol system, the birthplace of the old Galactic Free States and a key member of the so-called outlawed Rebel Alliance, is no more. It's no more. All thanks to my vaunted Starfleet and my ultimate weapon, the Dark Star. Stelivanov continues. On a pop-up on the monitor screen, a view of the bright side of the blue-green world is visible, and off in the distance floats a small moon. But then, from an overly large crater comes a beam of pure energy that strikes the far side of the Earth, somewhere in Siberia. It then bursts out on the near sunny side of the planet, after plowing through the Earth's crust mantle, through the core, and out the near side near the Great Lakes. In the blink of an eye, the Earth is no more. Dissolves into a bright flash of blinding light and gas and flame, then goes away like there was no Earth ever there. All that is left is the once blessed world is dust and rock. Oh my God, Julia says flatly. She closes her eyes and says a silent prayer for the lost lives, snuffed out in the blink of an eye. She knew that a few of her crew were from Earth. Sweet Jesus. 7 billion dead in an instant, said Dietrich says softly to himself. My God, Stephen says too. Stephen thinking of his mom and dad in Virginia near the Norfolk Naval Space Seaport. Did they make it on board one of the evacuation ships? He thought to himself. Sepp had no family on Earth. His parents died when he was 28 and he was able to make it to the funeral. He was an only son. Tagus looks down at the floor. He nuns Stephen's Earth parents along with his birth parents, plus a few other people he only knew by name and reputation. But he, for the most part, kept to himself during his time on Earth. Natuk never really got to know people on Earth. He always felt like an outsider. He always stood out in the crowd thanks to his impressive height, build, and bony brow bridge. Hence the ubiquitous ball cap he wore and his fangs. Plus, there was a large amount of body hair covering his body. He had a flat Norfolk close to the eagle, but that was all gone now. Four hours later, the Eagle sits down in one of the cavernous Centauri Prime docking bays in Centauri Prime City. Natuk arranged for the offloading of the 3 metric tons of electronics and fuel cells with the harbor master. The cargo was offloaded with the help of the P4R1 loading drones. Okay. Stephen is making his first foray off-world, and he gets his first taste and view of people on another planet, many of whom look like him and speak in different tongues. He has no clue what many of them are saying, despite speaking 3 languages. Here, Stephen, attach this to the side of your neck, Tagus says now. What is it? Stephen asks as he holds a small U-shaped digital device to the side of his neck. It's a universal translator. I know you speak 3 languages, but there are over 100,000 known languages in this galaxy alone. Tagus explains as he activates a small quarter-sized device on the side of Stephen's neck, attaching it via adhesive glue that is harmless to the wearer to the side of Stephen's neck. Stephen's shocked as the gibberish everyone sat around him was saying turns to English in an instant. Thank you, Stephen says, smiling. Do not worry. What you say will also be translated into the languages around you at any given time. Tegus says. But English, as you call it, is a universal language in the Alliance, along with music and math. We call it basic. Shall we get some drinks, friends? My treat, Septutrix says as he leaves the docking bay 42. And he entered the large, sprawling city of Centauri Prime, the capital of Centauri Prime. Stevenson sees beings of all sorts passing by, talking among themselves. First time on Centauri Prime, Natuk asks. Yeah, Steven says. First time off the Earth, too. Notice that all girls and women of near adult age wear very tall, uncomfortable looking leather collars around their necks, in addition to the regular clothing. The females seem to be accustomed to the collars. It takes a bit of getting used to for off-worlders like yourself. However, it's a law that has been in effect for generations on this planet. And none of the female population is treated any differently than the men are. Natuk says now. They can own their own business, run for elections, stuff like that. And there have been laws proposed to repeal this law, but none have ever passed. All girls over the age of 16 are treated equally by men. Some strict laws, Stephen says. Yes, but like I said, no laws have been put up through to repeal this law. Natuk says. You two species share this world. Yes, we do, Natuk says. Long ago, before we sat down and settled our differences peacefully, another Nagano warrior says as he walks up to clasp hands with Natuk's hand and welcome. We the humans here fought many bloody and costly wars, but neither side could win a decisive victory. So one day we sat down and talked, until we realized how both races could live in harmony with one another and share our world. So we also stopped stripping our world of its natural resources and its beauty. We share our world with the environment, Natuk says proudly. 1 second. As they talk, a carriage rolls by along cobblestone street, pulled by a team of 4 Ligata mounts, 2 males and 2 females. All 4 great, tall and graceful, like a lion of earth. The males with the long flowing manes, like a lion's mane, the stripes of a tiger and the spots of a cheetah. Horns like a ram protruding from its large mouth. One second, sorry. Okay, I just got lost here. Hang on, guys, sorry. Oh, here we go. The passenger compartment sits at the carriage sits Princess Julia Lurkin and one of her guards. She sits there smiling as she waves to everyone who cheers for her as she passes. And another 2 of her guards sit in the driver's seat in front. She can only wave due to the collar around her neck, and able to look to either side without turning her whole body. Everyone bows to the princess as she rolls by in the carriage. Shall we go for dinner at my place, friends? Dietrich asks now. We're not far away. My treat. Yes, please, everyone says. They enter a busy pub, the name Dietrich hanging over the door as people enter and exit the large popular pub in the heart of town. There are many Ligatau drawn carriages and spreader cars parked out front. This is a very popular. This place is very popular among both locals and pilots. They enter the pub and take a seat in a corner booth that is reserved for the owner and his guests. Sepp Dietrich. He leads into the bar where they meet Bay, the lead bartender. Additionally, a local girl who was hired by the original owner who sold it to Sepp to pay off a gambling debt. Sepp has kept the prices fair and a little above what the original owner kept them at. And Sepp had kept the original staff too, providing them with raises to retain them on staff. They move up to the long top-lit bar to order drinks. There are three female bartenders behind the bar and a large galley-style kitchen in the back. Beer for me, please, Stephen says as he rests his hand on a digital palm reader to verify his legal drinking age. He gets a green light. Same for me, Tega says. Cognac on the rocks, Dietrich says. I'll have my usual, a mug of beer. Thank you. Not took, says as they shimmy up to the bar. Put everyone's drink on my tab, Big. And thank you, Dietrich says. You got it, boss, the lead bartender says, smiling as she pours the drinks and then hands them out one at a time. The beer for Tegas and Stephen and Tegas is from Earth, recently delivered by the boss himself. But with no Earth, they'll have to find a replacement for them soon. Here we go. Okay. Stephen Sepp has started his brewery using ancient formulas for beer that will no longer be available if Earth is gone forever. He got copies of the original formula for Budweiser, Coors, and other old Earth beers. Excuse me. He's in the process of building a brewery here on Centauri Prime, with the old vats and stiller equipment that comes with it. He's even hired a distiller from Earth who started brewing beer for him in a distillery just outside of the city limits. Once the drinks are served, to Earth may she rest in peace, Taya says, raising his glass in a toast. May she rest in peace, Stephen says solemnly. To Earth. Everyone in the pub calls out. Hear, hear. Others call out. Everyone, the bartenders included, raised glasses and clinked them together in solemn memory, bowing the heads in silent prayer for the 7 billion lost on the planet, 7 billion snuffed out in that mere second of hatred. Stephen says silently, taking a break. Let's see if anybody's on. Oh well. Might take a break for a couple minutes anyway. Last time I read, I just went straight through. Okay. Okay, back to reading. Father, we cannot let what befell Earth happen to us on Centauri Prime. Princess Julia Lurkin says as she and her father, the king, watches several computer techs and a couple of their best computer analysts scan and analyze the stolen Dark Star plans in a sub-basement of the palace with a fine-tooth comb. You did well, my daughter, the king, her father, the king of Centauri Prime, says. Both royals stayed back and out of the way as the techs go over the plans, looking for any weakness in the station's plans, anything that'll save the Rebel Alliance from total defeat and the death of even more beings here on Centauri Prime and other worlds in the Alliance. I only regret I was unable to get plans back in time to save the Earth from destruction, Julia says softly. My ship was en route back here to Prime when the Emperor broadcast the news of its destruction. It was a sad day for all humankind indeed, her father says softly, closing his eyes. We need to help any survivors, Father, Julia says, closing her eyes. We are. I have received word that a convoy of Earthships is en route to our system as we speak. Warships shepherding a fleet of civilian ships here from the Sol system, her father says. Yes, Father, I have heard the same news, Julia says now. I want you to coordinate the efforts to relocate the survivors once they land, her father says. We will find them homes among our people, and I would love for you to lead the efforts. Understood? I would love to, Father, Julia says, smiling. Both stand out of the way of the text as they go over the plans. Okay. Around midnight, Julia sneaks out of the palace in her work clothes, quote unquote work clothes, which she always wears in addition to her collar that she wears 24/7, like all women do after their 16th birthday, altering the color of the collar from royal purple to white for a working girl at one of the local shops in town, using a built-in device to modify the color of her collar so she cannot be identified as royalty or a merchant out after working late in one of the shops. Give me a second. Okay. She looks up at Aura, one of the Centauri Prime's 3 moons, as her eyes is high above the palace roof. Tonight she's going to Dietrich's, one of her favorite hangouts. She loved it because it caters to both locals and interstellar travelers. She knows the Earthling. She knows the owner, an Earthling named Sept Dietrich. I'm also running the cargo from the Sol system to other planets in the nearby systems, not just Centauri Prime. And his first mate, Atuk, a native of Centauri Prime, and a member of the Nagano warrior race. Both own and not pilot the SS Eagle, a tramp cargo vessel. Sorry. She was so happy to hear that Dietrich had retained the old staff hired by the old owner of the pub, now called Dietrich's. She was surprised that the German, as he called himself, kept the prices fair and reasonable, catering to all natives and off-worlders alike. But he does not allow any droids into his establishment. None was ever hired by the previous owner either, and the quality of the food and drinks remained at the highest standards set by the previous owner. She also knew he was brewing his versions of the alcoholic beverages native to Earth. Busy as always, I see, she says as she nears the entrance. There's a couple of pilots stagger out of the pub with a couple of local girls in the evening. She enters, hearing music blaring from an ancient jukebox that had to be at least 1,000 years old and native to Earth. She's not even recognized for who she truly is as she passes them on her way into the pub. She works her way through a crowd of dancers to the bar at the rear of the pub. Hannah, the lead bartender Bay calls out, calling her by her assumed name on the street. Bay, she says as she walks up to the bar. Her street name is Hannah Joe, a local shop worker. Can I have a beer, please? She rested her hand on the palm reader to assure the bartender she was of age and gets a green light. Of course, late night as usual. Bay, the bartender asks. Yeah. He works us to the bone, day in and day out. And for less than minimum wage at that, Hannah says. He thinks that since we women have to wear these colors, we have no rights as males do. She takes the offered beer from the bartender, smiling. Besides, there are no jobs available in my line of work. Jobs are scarce here everywhere, Bay says, nodding her head, handing her the beer. Thanks, Bay, Julia says, handing Bay a cool 5 sovereigns for the beer. She turns around to look around the pub and sees her close friend, Sepp Dietrich, and his first mate seated in his usual place with a couple strangers sitting beside them. She grabs her beer and walks over. Mind if I join you, gentlemen? She asks, now smiling. Of course not, Hannah, Sepp says, using her assumed name. He knows who she truly is. He gets up to allow her to sit down beside Stephen and Natuk. And Natuk is seated on Stephen's left. And Tegas on Natuk's left. All 3 men rise to their feet as she walks up. I see the place is jumping as usual tonight, Sub, Julia says, sipping her beer. You can say that again, Hannah, Seth says, using her alias. Who are your new friends? Julia asks now. The man to your left is Tegas of the now defunct North American Union, Earth. You know my first mate, Natuk. To his left is Stephen T. Spears, also from the North American Union. Friends is Hannah Joe, a local girl who works at one of the local busiest shops in town. My pleasure, she says, nodding to each man, smiling. Stephen has trouble keeping his mismatched eyes off hers as they stare at each other. Stephen, right? She asks him as he nods, smiling. I see you were born with the same mismatched eye syndrome as I was. Small universe, huh? I know, weird, isn't it? She nods her head as best she can due to her very tall collar. Okay. I better have a chat with the kids before anything happens between them, Tegas thinks to himself. He then knows that they're fraternal twins born on Ukrania Prime, the throne world of the Galactic Empire, and it's to live in awe of the dreaded Emperor. I better talk to them before they get too close to each other intimately, he thinks to himself. Teenage love, Seth says, smiling. The kids were more interested in each other than in what was going on around them now. They were googly-eyed over each other Tegus knows they were fraternal twins, born 5 minutes apart. Stephen was born first and now dead, freely elected last Galactic Chancellor of the Galactic Free States. Their mother is the dreaded Dark Ninja, Lev Nusky, killer of billions. Julia, Hannah, takes Stephen's hand. I'm so sorry to hear about her, she says, taking his hand in hers now. Thank you, Hannah, Stephen says sorrowfully. I don't even know if my parents survived the attack or not. Either. Teenage Lev smiling, blooming, Sep says, smiling. You only knew the truth, Captain Tegus thinks to himself. He knew that he could not keep them apart all the time. I better sit them down and talk to them about their family lineage, he thinks to himself. If they do hook up, he hopes he'll use protection. He cannot babysit them 28 hours a day. 28 hours is the length of a day on Centauri Prime. Where am I? Okay. The trees in the back, Captain? Stephen asked, finishing his beer. Yeah, to the left of the bar at the back, kid, Dietrich says, smiling. Stephen rises to his feet and heads to the back where he'll find the bathrooms. He felt her bare foot against his leg under the table. Ladies' room back there, too, Captain? Julia asks, finishing her beer now. Of course, Hannah. Sep says, smiling. She rises to her feet and rushes to the back. 10 minutes later, Stephen returns with a satisfied look on his face. A few minutes later, Hannah returns, a little worse for wear, her hair disheveled. Stephen, I think I better let you know you had sexual relations with Princess Julia Lurkin. Nutuck says in the kid's ear. Look of shock crosses the boy's face as he stares at Julia. He smiles back at him and waves. Looking at her left eye, too. Oops. And that's it, chapter 2. Now, I just finished chapter 2. I'd like to know what everyone thinks of my book so far. Put them in my comments. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I appreciate those who have subscribed to me so far. Appreciate the friends I have on here I've made so far. Can't believe I'm actually doing this. But anyway. But I'm glad I started reading this book. Can't believe I've done it too. But that was chapter 2. I'm done with chapter 2. 2 down, 6 more to go. Can't believe that. I think I'm going to call it a night. Thank you, my friends. Thank you again. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Good night.